All right, welcome everybody. My name is Joey Spooner. I'm here from Kanban University. I'm the product manager as well as community development specialist here for the Kanban University. And today I'm lucky enough to have Dimitri Ponomareff and Craeg Strong here to talk about Kanban Zone. And Craeg Strong is actually an AKT from our Kanban community, so he's a trainer. And Dimitri is a recent partner of ours from this company, really interesting company called Kanban Zone. We're going to spend a little time today talking about this product and having Dimitri as well as Craeg kind of walk us through some of these really neat features that are here in this product. So I know Dimitri a little bit from the background of the Kanban space. He does a lot of interesting things in the non-IT space for Kanban. And so today, I think he's going to highlight a lot of what he does with his tools, with his technology, with what we would probably call business agility and a bit more. So with that, Dimitri, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Kanban Zone?
Sounds good. Well, I started coaching in Agile 20 plus years ago, and over the years, we realized this movement towards Kanban. So in the last 5 years, me and one of my coaches decided to take this opportunity and build our own Kanban software. And the journey has been interesting. We now have a software, and what we are very excited about is some of the topics that Joey already put on the table is we now have the ability to really help anyone using Kanban by using a visual collaboration platform that is ideally suited for portfolio project management. And the big thing, and I know we'll get to it, is the only reason we decided to build this software is my co-founder and I, Kristen, we kept on designing these wonderful Kanban boards with sticky tape and sticky notes, and the customers loved them because it was exactly what they needed. And then they're like, Dimitri, let's put it online. And then we had to go into tools that just couldn't handle it. They were just perfect, simple grids. And so that's the genesis of all this, is we wanted to give the most flexible way to build anything you can imagine with Kanban. So that's the intro. This is the problem we're solving. And we're very excited to be a partner of Kanban University because now we can have way more friends to do crazy stuff together.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Dimitri. So, one thing that we've talked about before is that people will challenge you. Like you were saying, you did sort of the whiteboard thing with the sticky tape, and people will come to you and say, can you even build this in Kanban Zone? Do you have some examples of that we could see possibly?
I do, and they're from my friend Craeg over there, who we actually, Craeg, I don't know if you remember, but we met through a LinkedIn not fun conversation where we were arguing together, and then we were like, hey, let's talk offline, and we started talking offline, and Craeg has challenged me since that day, since my first LinkedIn when I met him, and he kept on challenging me. And before I go, do you want to do a quick introduction with Craeg so that I can then show off his 2 challenges, because Craeg challenges me all the time.
Yeah, awesome. So I've known Craeg for quite a few years now, both in sort of the US government space as well as in the Kanban space. And he's a geek deluxe in my world. He knows a lot about the technical layer of things, but also really interested in trying to apply Kanban to a lot of these different domains, including government as well as non-government work. So Craeg, do you want to kind of give us a quick intro to who you are? And then from there, Dimitri, do you want to give us a show of what we're talking about here?
Yes.
Sure, yeah. So thanks, Joey and Dimitri, for the great introduction. Yes, so I am CTO of a small company, and we do a lot of government contracting, federal government contracting, with large law enforcement agencies and other agencies that I can't mention, but Social Security is one I can mention. And over the COVID period, I started saying, well, we need to really look at tools. So we started looking at tools, and I was delighted to find that the tools have come so far that in some ways, especially what you're going to see today, in my opinion, they can even exceed what we can do with sticky notes and whiteboards. So that's really exciting for me as a coach, and for what I can tell for my trainees and things like that. So super exciting.
Awesome.
So now that everyone knows Craeg, let me show you what Craeg does to me. So let me share my screen. So this is the first of his 2 challenges. he sent me this picture and he said, Dimitri, can you recreate this? And I'm like, fantastic, it's a real picture. Even more fun. And you'll notice there's some dancing people in here, and I even reproduced the dancing people. So let me show you this. So this is the picture that was sent to me, right? And I recreated this board, no problem. So it's exactly recreated here, including the little dancing people, which I'll zoom in to show you. There was little dancing people on the board right here. So these are your dancing people. So we went as far as, and this is the fun piece of Kanban Zone, is we really can recreate anything you throw at us. So this is the version of exactly the same image I'm showing you here. And that was it. So this board, the reason it was interesting to me is, as you can see, it has split vertical columns here. They had this concept of splitting vertically. And the big thing you'll notice about our tool is we can split any way you want. This is not a tic-tac-toe grid. This is whatever you want to do it. So if I go in my board designer, you're going to see that we can go berserk in here. If I expand all the columns, right, everything is customizable here to create anything you want. And all it is a bunch of containers that work with each other. So once you master the container approach that we use, you can create anything you want. So this one was a good challenge because I love working from real pictures. And it's exactly the picture, right? With all the concept, the swim lanes and everything, right? But the second challenge, and Craig, this is the first time you see it because this is the challenge which gave me the most trouble. I'm like, Craig, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And what Craig wanted was to be able to do long lanes like this. And I'm like, I won't do it. And he kept on bugging me. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. So this thing right here has what we call these extended lanes. You see how this lane is 4 wide with this stuff. So if you take a look at this picture right here, of course, we were able to reproduce this exactly the same. I even used the same color cards and everything. And I went even more. What I did is, when Craig says that we can now go further than sticky notes, is if you look at the picture again, you'll notice that there was a concept of big A, little A, big B, little b. I actually went as far to actually make those connections. So what I did is all the little A cards are actually connected to the big A card. So all the little A's are connected. Why is that important? Well, because they're in different states. One of the little A's is in green, which means it's in a done column. The other little A's are in yellow, which means it's an in progress column. So I didn't explain that to you guys, but you can create any column you want, but they must be associated with a state of either to do blue, yellow in progress, right? And green done. So the concept here is when you start linking your cards, now you can see the progress at a glimpse here. So if I moved another card to done, so I'll take this one, this A card, and I'll move it to done, then not only do you get confettis because you completed something, but the green bar happens. So I'll do it again with a B. So I'll move a B here. I'll get my confettis and the progress here. So yeah. I guess when Craig said, not only can we reproduce the stickies, this you can't do with stickies. Well, you can't get the confettis, first of all, but you can't get the connections. So Joey, this was my first thing I wanted to show, is a picture from Craig, and then a concept from Craig that said, come on, can you do this? And the answer is, yes, we can.
Awesome. Awesome. That's exciting stuff right there. That to me is amazing. Plus, you know, one small benefit to mention here, folks, is that if confetti is all over the floor, you have to clean it up. You don't have to clean up this confetti. I think about that as a big deal too. So I like that a lot. That's really cool to see, Dimitri. You know, a lot of people have been trying to get this sort of wider lane approach built out on their boards. And this is really exciting to see in our space, because I know a lot of our coaches, a lot of our consultants and trainers are trying to educate people on the flexibility of Kanban design. And I think that really does come through a lot in this product. I think you had mentioned something also about Portfolio Kanban, maybe as an option here for you guys and what you do. So could you show us something about that?
Correct. And one thing is, as we enter Portfolio Kanban, now we're going to enter multiple boards. So not only can our board go crazy, but now you can connect multiple crazy boards. So one of the example I'll tell you before I show off is we had a toy company, and they had to connect with multiple vendors around the world producing their toys, etc. And they give us the same challenge as Craig, and it says, here's a massive video of like 500 things interconnected. Can you build it? Well, we didn't build it in one board. We had to create multiple boards to make that experience. So as we enter Portfolio Kanban, I will do the demo on a single board, but then show it to you on multiple boards. The reason I do it on a single board is just for the demo, it's much easier. So let's jump into Portfolio Kanban. So the concept I want to give you is, on our website, we explain Portfolio Kanban very simple with 3 flight levels: strategy, discovery, and delivery. I'm going to keep it as simple here. You can go much crazier with multiple flight levels, doesn't matter. But for the context of this, keep an eye on these purple and green cards. So at the strategic level, you might have a major purple initiative that's going to break into epics or projects, right, that are going to go on the discovery. And then these are going to break out into stories or enhancements on your delivery team. So there's going to be a purple breakdown and there's going to be a green breakdown. Okay. I'm going to switch forward here and I'm going to go into my prototype. And so I'm going to zoom out to give you a better picture, but the prototype, the prototype has the 3 levels here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the purple. The purple has a little bit more stuff going on. So I'm just going to remove the purple for now. So I'm going to say, show me only the green stuff. So I'm only going to focus on the green project. It has a strategic flight level with its own process, a discovery flight level with its own process, and in this case, only one delivery. There could be multiple deliveries, etc. Keep an eye on these blue lines. Remember when I told you that every column is associated to a colored state? Keep an eye on these blue lines. Okay. I'm going to do a top down followed by a bottom up. So the executives at the strategic level have agreed to do the green initiative. As soon as they say they approve it, it signals the lower level. I'm going to do it again. Keep an eye on the lines. It signals that the discovery team is now allowed to start working on their discovery because their parent card has said, hey, listen, we're starting and we've approved it. This triggers now the discovery team to say, you know what, guys, let's start discovery, the first feature, move it into design. Boom, all of these come yellow and this one turn yellow. So I'm gonna zoom out just a second because this is the sandwich card, right? So this is the meat between the 2 buns, right? So the meat is gonna come in and boom, the 2 buns get informed that now the discovery has started. So from a strategic level, they probably can move to tracking now because they know there's work happening. And now the delivery teams have everything they need to start moving. So now the delivery teams are going to say, okay, game on, let's start moving our first card. And as you can tell now, there's 3 cards connected. So as I move to the board, right, it keeps changing. So I'm going to keep moving my cards, right? And as I get to my done column, right, of course, I'm going to get my confettis. And now this card is probably approved, right? I forgot to do the approve mode, and it's probably an implement because a lot of stuff is going on, right? So the cards keep moving, and now we're going to go bottom up. So top down kept on sending signals down to the organization, but now we're going to go bottom up, where everything is completed, which now signals bottom up. Hey, discovery, we did all our work. As you can see, we're foil green. Would you mind doing a quick validation to make sure you're happy? Sure. And then they move it to done. Now the executives, because I'll do it again because the confettis are so fun, I'll do it again. Now the executives know it's time for them to go back to work and start measuring their stuff. Once they measure their stuff, they're done. The example I give you here is on a single board for the demo purposes, right? And I've simplified the flight levels extremely. You should probably do this on multiple boards. And so what we do in our tool is when you add a board to our tool, we have this whole Portfolio Kanban concept where we give you the templates to build your strategy level, your discovery level, your delivery levels, but you can do whatever you want. But typically, these connections between cards do not have to be strictly on the same board. They can be across boards. Sorry, guys, I get excited when we talk about Portfolio Kanban, so I'm going to pause and see if there's any follow-up.
So for me so far, I'm really impressed by this, Dimitri, because it does show the ability to communicate a lot at a large view. One question that kind of popped up as you were showing this to me, at least, was something around the lines of like, if it's the discovery group doing the discovery work itself, let's just say a discovery team kind of managing the design pieces of this, do they have their own view of this relative to the bigger view? Do they have their own sort of like localized view of this kind of picture?
Correct. So for them, they would probably be on their own board doing their own work without having to see everything else. So they would be focused. And each delivery team, so often when we do this, right, there's one strategy board. I like to call it like the Lord of the Ring, right? The one ring that rules them all. So there's one board that has to rule everyone, but there could be one or multiple discoveries with their own view of the world, right? For a large organization, they might have multiple, and then many deliveries. So there could be like 20, 30 teams trying to deliver, but they're all, and this is the key, full traceability, which we always want in software, right? When we find an issue, we want to track it back to where it happened, right? Or where it's connected. And this is why we built it like this. And I hope you see that one of the biggest piece, I believe, that Kanban Zone does is it keeps things simple. Everything I'm showing you is meant to give you this Zen, simple, intuitive, hey, portfolio management is difficult, but not in Kanban Zone.
Right. Yeah, it looks very achievable from a lot of perspectives. It also helps organizations maybe frame their thinking, which is something that I think is becoming more popular around how do we look at things in terms of layers or levels. So the idea of flight levels, for example, that kind of shows you sort of this upper level view, middle level view, and then down below the real frontline view of things. So that's really exciting to see.
And Joey, just a quick, I was talking to one of your AKT yesterday, and he's like, Dimitri, I pitched exactly this to one of my customer, and they were like, wow, this is great. And then they didn't do it.
Yeah.
They understood the concept of portfolio and flight levels, but they didn't have the appetite for it. And I showed him to him in our tool, and he goes, oh my gosh, if I could have shown them this demo, they probably would have went for it. And obviously he's now going to go show it to them. But my point is that when you're trying to transform an organization, you're at a human level, you're trying to explain all this. If you don't have a rapid prototype or a quick way to show, right, how it will all connect and in a simple way, then how can you expect these executives to see the full picture? So that's why I really love doing this demo I just did with you guys, is it just helps people say, oh my gosh, it doesn't have to be that complicated conceptually.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like about this tool, and in particular, a lot of tools do this, but I think your tool does it really well too, is the idea of, hey, here's a sort of way to start off. So for executives who need to make a quick decision, they go, oh, this looks like what's something we could do maybe culturally or from a practice perspective. Maybe it's not too much for us to pull off. So it's a simple starting point. And then like your tool allows, you can say, hey, we can change this little by little. So our people in the community who know about the Kanban management professional stuff or the design of Kanban systems, they especially know this kind of stuff. They can say, wait, we can change this along the way. So we're not fixed into some kind of way of working. We might start off here, but this is probably not what we're going to finish with. We're going to continue to grow and change and modify our ways of working. And I like that a lot about your product here, Dimitri. It does allow for that to happen in the background while things still continue to operate normally, right?
And you see, Joey, the number one word that's used to describe us is flexible. And you see what you just described? I start with 3 flight levels. If you want to add a 4th one, easy peasy. You don't have to redo everything. There's no hierarchy in our tool. You want to call this card a project and make it the beginning of your Gantt chart? Do it. There's no concept of declaring who are my projects. No, you design the environment that you need and you make it start wherever you want to start. So be careful with great powers or great flexibility. you can make crazy stuff, right? But when you're partnered with a good coach, right, you will design the system that actually works for you. And that's why for me, I'm not tied to any framework. I'm tied to a concept or a model that then you talk to your customer and listen to their culture, their environment, and then design what's best for them. So just wanted to shout out this is that we built it with this intent because we're coaches and we were tired of hitting these rigid platforms that just you do your job and then you're told, well, you have to do it now the way the tool wants it. No, the tool is just a tool. It's a hammer or it's a screwdriver. It should not change what you should be doing for your customers.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, in terms of flexibility and some features, I know some of the stuff that Craig has called out. He's called out 3 things that he wanted to share with you, or share with us really today, that he finds extremely useful on his end. And Craig, do you want to kind of jump into those 3 things? I have 3 things on my list here, but I thought maybe you could kick it off and just share your favorite ones so far.
Sure, will do. So I don't know if I'm able to share my screen.
And I can share
let
for
me
you if you want to, Craig. I can do the demos
Okay.
for you if you want to.
Yeah, let me the first was the Cliff Hazel's example, the Spotify example.
Okay, I'm going to share it with you. Share screen, share Spotify. Okay, I'm almost there. There we go.
Yes. So what's interesting about this one is my favorite feature there is illustrated on the very bottom right, those purple or pinkish purplish guys. So what happens here is there's a type of column called none. And what that means is it's not participating in the workflow. You know, it's not flowing. These are cards that are not flowing. So essentially what they had in Spotify is they had their flow, they had their cards that were, you know, flowing across the board in a workflow, but they also had other information that was helpful to the team to see. And in this case, it was systems that they own. You know, what are the major systems that they're working on? And it was just like annotations. They're just annotations on the board. And so, you know, I asked Dimitri, how can we do this? He said, and he basically came up with this. I didn't even think about it. He said, well, I could just make the type of workflow on a certain column to be none, meaning it's just not part of the workflow at all. And so you could just stick these anywhere. Any one of these containers can be a none. So essentially what it means is you can put little annotations anywhere in your board. And now suddenly you're almost marrying almost like Visio type concept or a Miro type concept and almost bringing that together with Kanban boards. And that is really exciting to me because that seems to be, you know, when you look at whiteboards and what people do, there's always the workflow and all the columns, but there's always extra stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's little flags and little appreciation notes and, you know, which systems are we working on or what are the top things that our business is facing, maybe risks, you know, all kinds of stuff there. And so this really makes that possible. And so if you see those on the bottom, those are the systems we own. That's just a none column. So that's I haven't seen that in other Kanban tools. There's sort of different ways that people may do that, but I thought that was a particularly elegant way to do that. So that's my first favorite feature.
Awesome.
And Craig, I'm going to show something quickly. I'm going to go to my real content management board. So this is my real content management board, and this is how I use it. I have swim lanes for blogs, videos, and content. They're different, right? But that's not what I want to show you. Look on what I do here. On the left side, I have a README column full of none. What do I put in there? And we'll talk about this next, I think, is I put cards so that exactly what Craig is saying. Why would I make my team look for the style guide? Why would I make them look for my strategy? So this is what our clients are calling hybrid boards. They're a combination of a Kanban board, right? There's a real Kanban board here, but like Craig is mentioning, there's these visual components here where I can also put my team members, right? All my team members are cards, right? But then I go crazy. So this is where my Kanban ends, and this is a content management board. I represented my whole website as a visual so that my team can say, well, where does this content fit and who owns what? And now I can say, guys, you work here to produce blogs, right? This is where you produce your blogs, but then you have a visual mapping. So when Craig said, kind of like what you would do in Miro, 100% like you would do in Miro, but why would you be in a whiteboard tool if you can reproduce the same image here in a way where you can actually also store information at the card level? So you can do so much here by having this combination of what our customers are coining hybrid boards. They're not just Kanban, they have those gray columns. And as Craig mentioned, they're all none columns, right? All of them. Sorry, Craig, I had to show the extra.
No worries. So for my second favorite feature, can you move to the HR example?
Yes.
And that example originally came from Ian Carroll. It's another coach. And what's really interesting about the HR example is it's an example of a team that almost all of their work is actually coordination. So they really don't have much of a workflow. They don't have a whole bunch of states that they put the work through. Basically, when they work on something, almost all of what they're doing is getting this team to do something, this team to do something. They're just sitting around and saying, do, and they're coordinating everything. And then when everyone's done with all their stuff, they do their little thing and then everything's done. So really, if you look at this, when you go to the doing column, those sub columns underneath are, okay, IT, you do something. Because think about an HR, right? If we're onboarding something, we need a desk, we need a chair, we need a telephone, we need a computer, contractual, contracts need to be signed, all kinds of stuff. So legal. So all of those guys are doing stuff. And so here's what I want to mention. What's being used here is the mirror capability. So there's really two kinds of systems that I've seen. And one of them treats all issues as a record in a database. And there's advantages and disadvantages. The record in a database means you can show those tickets on any board, but there's a lot of rigidness there. With Kanban tools, typically issues belong to their board. So when you create a board, you put tickets on it, those tickets only live in the universe of that board. They can't go anywhere else. So that brings up a challenge. Well, how do you have connected boards? Well, the way Dimitri solved that was, I thought, particularly brilliant. Basically said, oh, let me just make a mirror. So you can say, here's a ticket on one board, and I mirror that. You can just say, mirror it, show it over on this other board. And now the two move in parallel and they stay exactly up to date. So it's all the benefits of the record-based approach with none of the drawbacks. So it's a really, really elegant way, and particularly here, because all of these cards here on this board are just mirrors of the real cards on the other team's board. And then they have all this complex workflow that they're going through. And all we're doing is just seeing that they're active, that they're being worked on. And when they're done, from the other team has gone through all of the steps and got it all done, then they'll show up here done. So done. Now, when they're all done, now I can move this to the end. So it's a really, really clever way of connecting the boards. This is one. The other one that I particularly like that you did, Dimitri. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to finish this one because what I did is while you were talking, I created an IT board real quick. I just created a dummy board with nothing on it, right? And because I didn't go as far in the challenge, so I'm going to take this first IT card and I'm going to mirror it. All I need to do is find my IT board in here, which is right here. And now it's mirrored. Once I'm mirrored, I have options. Where do you want to put it on the board? And who do you want to assign it? So the only things we don't mirror between boards are ownership of the card and labels, because labels could be different between boards. So I'm going to mirror this card. Now it's a mirror. So it has this blue icon and it has the blue icon here. What does that do? If I now move to the other board, you'll see that the card is here. It's the exact same card. So if I change it here and I call it A, B, C, right? And I just made this change here and I add a description and I add a task and I add a whole bunch of stuff here. Well, if I switch now to the other board, because the other board, and first I can see this card is in yellow while this one is in blue, right? That's what Craig was saying. So I'm going to switch now to the other board. Now I'm on this card. And as you can see, everything is mirrored perfectly between the two boards. And it's a mirror, and the status of the two. The big piece that I loved about what Craig said is IT might have people that don't have access to this HR board, so they can't collaborate. Not true. With a mirror, we permit collaboration through tasks, comments, attachments. So you can have different permission. Some people only have access to the HR board, but they need help from people in IT, and you don't want to give permissions to everyone. So mirrors don't break your permissions. They enhance the collaboration by making sure that you can do it. So I did it real quick here, and I could mirror all these cards. So I would expect in your example, Craig, that all the IT cards are mirrored on the IT board, all the facilities, right? Makes sense?
Exactly. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that. It's this very elegant way of doing it. And one of the other things that makes possible is story mapping. One of the things as a coach that I kind of miss sometimes is some Kanban tools don't really have the ability to do story mapping. And I think it's a pretty useful tool. I really like that approach to discovery. And you put the, epics or large things on the top, and then you sort of work out your Jeff Patton's story mapping technique. But with mirroring, it makes it really, really easy to do, because you could basically imagine if you're doing story mapping for a huge system, you have 5 different teams, right? But you just all come together in front, the pictures in the book with Jeff Patton have everyone gathered around like this on the floor. There's like 100 index cards, right? We've seen those pictures, and it's really cool because it brings everyone together. It's like the big room approach. But you can do that in Kanban Zone, because you just basically put together a story map. And then once you create all the cards, you're like, oh, this should go to team A, mirror, done. This should go to team B, mirror, done. Just mirror stuff all over the place. And now you've got a central brain of your story map feeding all of the other teams, easy peasy, just like that. So really, it really makes some interesting things possible. That there's some really cool stuff there. So that's what my second favorite feature.
So Joey, I was not planning to show this, but I'm going to show it because now he's talking visual map. So we have a visual map of our product, by the way, following the exact same pattern technique, right? So I'm going to zoom in first. Yeah. So I have all my features, my walking skeleton or the backbone of my system, first-time users, my zones, my boards, my cards. And then what I do is under each of my backbone item, I have my features, and I'll take add card, for example. Add card is one of many features, right, under this backbone element. And I use my checklist to say, what have I already produced for my customers and what's missing? And I have 2 things missing. Now, Craig, as always, gives me great ideas. I did not mirror these cards yet. None of them are mirrored. And now I'm going to start mirroring them because he is right. I could mirror these on my roadmap board, because my roadmap board has these features. And so this is, by the way, this is my real feature map of my product, right? Kanban Zone, this is the entirety of Kanban Zone doing the exact visual mapping technique from Mr. Patton. And this is why, you see, Joey, I get excited again. Yeah. This is not a Kanban board. It has nothing Kanban about it, but it gives you the ability to build what I would call a visual board. It's just a visual board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this is great. This is good visualization, honestly, Dimitri. And so when we think about what we do in the Kanban method, honestly, we're talking about visualizing. Anything can be visualized. So this is, I like what Jeff has done with the story mapping, and this makes a lot of sense. Sometimes, depending, like you said, on the mirroring, you can just simply connect that right back to a visual board for Kanban flow, basically, to make sure that you're not overloading yourself with too many yeses, basically. So this is a cool way to kind of put that together. I could dive off. I'm a bit of a geek, but I'm not going to. I could dive off into story mapping and ask more about some things, but I'm going to stay back from that because of time. So I know some people might have questions. Feel free to ask them as we go along here. I think one final thing that you wanted to share, Dimitri, before we open up for questions or share a little bit more about metrics maybe, was sort of making collaboration happen here from your side. And you were talking about maybe an example of static that you've been able to collaborate with one of our trainers on.
So this is a huge shout out to your community. So I don't know if on this webinar, it's mostly Kanban University members or maybe people who just stumbled on it. But for members of the community, you need to challenge me like Craig does. And I'm going to share with you, this is the first time we announced our partnership officially, but there's already a few of you that reached out to me. One of them, his name is Stuart Oakley. He happens to be in Canada. I'm Canadian too. That was not part of the equation, but it just worked out. And he just jumped on a call with me. He says, hey, I hear you're doing stuff with Kanban University. And we started talking. After a couple of calls, I said, listen, I don't know what we can do together, but I'm sure we can do stuff. And he kept on harassing me about this static thing. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't use it, but now that I've known about it, I said, well, then show me. So here's what Stuart did. So I'm a big fan of what he did is he said, Dimitri, I want to write a blog for you. And on this blog, I'm going to ask permission. So we asked permission from the static people and said, can we use this? And he goes, Dimitri, what I just discovered with Kanban Zone is you do static so easily. So I'm like, tell me. Again, same challenge that Craig does to me, sends me a crazy picture. And I'm like, that sounds easy to me. I can do this in 2 seconds. And he goes, I don't believe you. And of course, we built it together, right? Stuart and I. And once he saw it, he goes, wow, my commitment point, which was very important for him. You can represent it very simple here and all that good stuff. And I'm like, yeah, of course I can. And we kept on talking and he kept on going crazy. And then he went, I love your aging. Your aging is so cool. We didn't even talk about aging, but Aging is a way to visually think. So I don't know why he snuck that in, but he loved it so much he had to sneak it in. And then he did better than me. He started explaining how my cards work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Stuart, I wasn't expecting you to go this deep, right? And it was just a great collaboration with Stuart where he felt compelled to make a connection with the way he works using static, right? In his trainings and with his customers and his concept. And he said, Dimitri, now I think I'm going to do my trainings, maybe using your platform and especially with my customers, because I can jump from, again, those darn whiteboard software, Miro, which are beautiful. I like them for whiteboarding, but not for actioning. For actioning, I need a platform that can actually do things. So it's a big shout out to your community, Joey. I really want everyone to know that we want to literally meet everyone one-on-one, talk to them, and build a relationship like we did with Craeg in terms of like, hit me with everything you have. I'm hoping to learn, and I'm hoping to improve our platform. And trust me, thanks to Craeg, we've improved our platform. That's the collaboration I'm looking for. I just want to talk to your community and say, guys, what are you missing? What can I do to help you in your training, when you're doing your certifications, or in your implementation as coaches? How can we help you? So that's the shout out. And the last piece, Joey, because we forgot to show it is, and I'll do it fast because I do want time for questions, is metrics. We just revamped them, and I believe they are out of this world. So I'll just go extremely fast on this. I'm going to go back to my super board. My super board is the one I used to develop Kanban Zone. So this is my super board. It's all collapsed because I don't want to show you what I'm working on right now. But here's the idea. It's got a ton of data because this is my board, right? So each step of my process is here, right? So I've got every step. But what we do with metrics is we make it so easy. You don't have to go very far. Every board gives you at a glimpse metric of what is your cycle time, what is your throughput, and what is your arrival time. That's with you not even having to open a single report. That's just like I always told when I coached a team, I said, if I meet you in the hallway in 2 years from now, and I ask you 2 questions, what is your cycle time? What is your throughput? I want an answer on the spot, right? And that's why we built it this way is those 2 metrics, you shouldn't have to look for them. They should be there all the time. But then you can go berserk, right? So now you can go and click on them. And now when you click on them, you get to see not only a chart that you can see multiple ways, but you can then say, you know what? I want to see the data behind this. Actually, I want to see both the chart and the data, right? So I want to go crazy. When we did here is we went really nuts on this. Remember those colored state we were talking about? You can now modify the way the report looks by selecting specific columns associated to this state. And as you can see, it affects the chart is moving and the cards are moving because I'm deselecting here things from this section here. So this was from customers. They wanted us to go. The beauty of our flexibility is you can do anything. The disadvantage is you have to be able to report on it. And this is the solution, is now you can go nuts here and really dig deep. In addition to that, right, you can do a whole bunch of filtering and all your your custom fields, but I'm going to switch report for a second. I'm going to go to a throughput because throughput is very important, I believe, when you do Kanban. And again, we can do it very fast. We can do, like, everything is very simple and quick in here, right? Whether you're looking at the chart or the data, everything is just rendering and going extremely fast. And then you can go absolutely nuts and do even more stuff, right? From these grids, right? Pivot table, like you can go berserk here, right? So this is why I didn't want to skip this section, is not only do we give you your key metrics, right? But you can go berserk into them, like absolutely nuts. So I just wanted to show that. And this is very similar to one of our zones, which is our table zone, which is where, again, same concept, when you can go absolutely nuts and group things and do things and just go berserk. And this is what we say. I'm so lazy because I'm an agile person, right? And I embrace my laziness by saying, I'm not going to build reports for my customers. I'm going to give them the raw data and a platform so that they can do whatever they want and they can save their views and build their own reports. I'm not building a single report.
Yeah, that's awesome, Dimitri. You said something that was really kind of two things. One, I know you're based out of Arizona, so there's going to be something in the water in Arizona because you got so much energy about this. It's just contagious. And the other thing was, I noticed that you were showing just really quickly how to snap together reports and do things really fast. And you said something about saving. So you can save these, right? You can say, hey, I've built my filters. I got everything just like I want it. I can save it and come back to it every couple of weeks and see how we're doing. Is that right?
Exactly. So the whole
Awesome.
concept of saving a view in table zone or in a metric is for these people who say, Dimitri, I really like this view. Well, just save it, give it a name,
Yeah.
and call it your report, but don't ever ask me to build your report.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's really impressive. I didn't expect to see so much coming from that. For folks who are on this webinar for the first time or just kind of getting introduced to Kanban University, seeing someone be able to kind of drag and select data and then create a chart off of that is pretty amazing to see. So kudos to you, Dimitri. That's a really nice feature. I think people are really going to like that a lot over time.
And you see, Joey, one of the principles in Kanban is measure and manage your flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we went bonkers. We took it to heart that if you're going to measure in Kanban, we will turn the data for you to do whatever you want, because measuring and improving your flow is the Kanban way. And we wanted to just unleash it so that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. That's really exciting. Well, I think we're kind of wrapping up here on time. So folks, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in here. I think we answered quite a few here and there along the way, at least ones that I had. So for those who are in the conversation right now, the webinar, feel free to pop in a question. If there's something you're going, yeah, but, or maybe if it has this. So if you have a moment here, feel free to ask that. One of the things that I was kind of thinking about briefly was, and I don't know if you have this feature yet, Dimitri, is sometimes managers that are higher level than the sandwich level, they're kind of on top of the bun, right? So at the very top of the bun where the strategy level sits, some of those folks like to have their own reports. I'm guessing they can build their own little dashboard where they can kind of see how things are flowing over time, or they can have like an assistant come and build a dashboard for them, and the executive goes, okay, great, that's what I get. And that could even maybe get emailed to them. Is that possible?
Absolutely. So the notifications are strong, and there's one thing I didn't show you. So yes to everything, but there's a zone that's very different than the other one. So we've got the Kanban zone, the list zone, which just folds everything as a list, the summary zone that can combine multiple boards into one by using those states. I showed you the table zone very quickly. The calendar zone is a calendar, as you can imagine, but this is the one I didn't show you. This is where managers love it, is you can actually put a personal WIP limit on the cards that you believe you should be focusing on across the organization. And column watching, which means any column in Kanban Zone, you could watch it, and it would show you all your cards that are entering this column by boards, by the way, which is how I do it. So I'm watching columns on 3 boards, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the key. For people, you can then turn the whole experience and saying, just show me my stuff. So this thing called My Zone is what we call a dashboard where management can, in addition to the reports where I said, yes, you can create all your reports you want and save them, you can come to this My Zone place and just turn the entire organization, which for me is not one board, it could be multiple boards, right? Into one view that says, but make it about me, make it about the people that report to me, make it about the stuff I'm managing.
Yeah. That's great. That's really exciting to see, because a lot of people don't have as much time to hang out in a tool like Kanban Zone because they're managing lots of stuff, right? Executives get bounced around a lot. So they're looking for fires maybe or something else to pay attention to. So that's really good to see, by the way, Dimitri. That's a healthy, robust product.
And I'm very happy I saw a comment, and this is what I'm hopefully we're going to get is, the comment was, this looks easy to use. That if that's the feeling you get after this webinar, then we've succeeded, because the tool should be easy to use. Your business should be complicated. Everything you do should be crazy, but not the tool. The tool should bring you that Zen ease of use.
Yeah. Craig, were you going to say something there? I don't know if you had a thought to share.
Yeah, yes, sir. I was just saying for my zone, the thing I have in mind is working with the government. In a large project, let's say you have 7 teams, you could say, well, show me the places where I need to make approvals or
Yeah.
things are ready for demo. So I would look only at those columns. You know, a lot of times the approval happens between the line on the line, right? So I would look at those things and I would see my queues building up and I would say, okay, it's time for me to walk over. I'm going to take a look at this demo and that demo. So that would give them the flexibility, because without that, you have what we used to do, which is we work at the FBI at the time. They would basically just drive the 45 minutes to our office every 3 weeks, and we just had it on a schedule and they would just come. And that's fine, but with a tool like this, you can make it much more dynamic. Like, oh, you have a lot, you know, we're going to come earlier because I see there's a ton of stuff to see. So why would I wait the whole 3 weeks and not have enough time to go through everything? So with a tool like this, you get a lot more of that kind of flexibility when you're in that sort of oversight or governance role.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you see, Joey, when I wrote up this webinar with you, I said we would talk a little bit about business agility in terms of using it in different places. So Craig is mentioning government. The exact same thing he said, legal lawyers would do exactly what Craig described. Is they have so many cases happening at the same time, but they can only work at one at a time. And we built My Zone, by the way, for lawyers. They were struggling by just doing Kanban, and like, Dimitri, can you give me something so I can focus? Today I need to know, am I going to court? Am I litigating? Like, what am I doing today? And My Zone was really built to build that concept of, well, take a chill pill, right? You've got all this stuff going on, but take a moment, do your daily planning and tell me which case should you be working on today. Same thing. So there's so many implications in construction, legal, everything. But I love the government example from Craig, because that's exactly why we built Kanban Zone, is to give that center around me, the human, and let me organize my own life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exciting, Dimitri and Craig. Thanks for sharing that. You know, one thing that brings up as well, and I pray that this happens at some point. We won't die before this happens, I think. But I can't wait for procurement organizations to pick up Kanban and start using it more. We have some that are definitely using it, but the more they use it, I think everyone would be happy. They would benefit from it, because that would shrink down the times for things to actually get done, to say, yes, let's buy that thing or let's service that thing. So whether you're in commercial or government, that's another big bottleneck in this space where it's overloaded typically. I know people are working hard there, just like legal professionals are, but the whip can get you basically. So thank you both, by the way. This has been a really good session. I think we've wrapped up everything. I think people have asked their questions, we've answered them. So if there's anything else, folks, feel free to ask us here over YouTube, or feel free to reach out to us here at Kanban University. That's kanban.university, or go to kanbanzone.com if you want to talk more with Dimitri and kind of challenge him. I dare you to, actually. I think he will accept your challenge. Whether you're a Kanban management professional, Kanban system design alumni, or even a coach or consultant or trainer, he is open to talking with you guys and accepting your challenges to build amazing Kanban boards and systems and more, obviously, as you see today. So with that, thanks, Dimitri. Thanks, Craig, for showing up today. We're going to wrap up now, and we hope to see you all online or in person at one of our Kanban events at some point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. Take care.